Hello everyone and thank you for the opportunity to speak today. Over the next 10 minutes, I'll be sharing insights on 4 key topics that directly shape our strategic environment: the broader economy, global trade tensions, behavioral economics, and the rise of artificial intelligence. Each of these areas carries important implications for how we assess risk, create opportunities, and support our clients at Valiant Finance. First, let's start with the macroeconomy. There are 3 key macroeconomic indicators we use to monitor and understand the economy's health. First, gross domestic product. This measures the total value of all goods and services produced in a country over a specific period. It's the most comprehensive indicator of economic activity. When GDP is rising, we're generally in a period of expansion. When it falls for 2 consecutive quarters, we're in recession. For example, post-COVID recovery saw a sharp GDP rebound, signaling rapid economic expansion. Second, inflation. This is the rate at which prices for goods and services increase. Measured by the Consumer Price Index, inflation reflects the cost of living. Moderate inflation around 2 to 3% is considered healthy, but high inflation erodes real incomes and destabilizes monetary policy. A deflationary period, on the other hand, may discourage spending and investment. Third, unemployment. This represents the proportion of the labour force that is willing and able to work but cannot find a job. Low unemployment usually accompanies economic growth, while rising unemployment often signals a slowdown. Now, how do these indicators provide insight into the business cycle? When GDP grows strongly and inflation is modest, we're typically in a growth phase. If inflation begins to rise too quickly, central banks may intervene with interest rate hikes, potentially slowing GDP and triggering contraction. Rising unemployment often lags behind these changes, confirming we're entering a downturn. Understanding the interaction between these indicators allows us to predict shifts in the business cycle, from expansion to peak, then contraction, and finally trough. Each phase brings unique challenges and opportunities. At Valiant, aligning our lending practices with the business cycle is essential. In expansion phases, we might focus on growth sectors, while during contractions, we emphasize risk mitigation, liquidity, and supporting clients through financial restructuring or relief options. Let's turn to global trade. With the re-election of President Donald Trump, tariff policies are once again making headlines. Tariffs aim to protect domestic industries, but often spark retaliatory measures. That can lead to trade wars, and the effects ripple across borders. From Australia's perspective, if the US imposes tariffs on our exports like beef, demand for Australian goods fall. Using the aggregate demand, aggregate supply model, this causes the aggregate demand to shift left. The national income or GDP decreases, unemployment rises, and inflation may fall. This reflects a contraction in our economy, particularly in trade-sensitive sectors like agriculture and resources. In the US, tariffs might boost domestic production at first, increasing aggregate demand, but over time, imported materials get more expensive, pushing aggregate supply to the left and driving up prices. That combination, slower growth and rising prices, is known as stagflation. Beyond direct bilateral effects, global trade tensions have broader implications. They create uncertainty, disrupt global value chains, and provoke retaliatory tariffs. For Australia, a trade-dependent economy, the spillover effects can be significant even if we're not directly targeted. For example, exporters face reduced demand and volatile prices, importers deal with rising costs and delayed shipments, and investor confidence is undermined. For us at Valiant, trade tensions raise several concerns. Small to medium enterprises reliant on global supply chains may face higher input costs. Exporters may experience falling revenues, and investor confidence can decline, affecting appetite for growth and credit. The key takeaway is that tariffs create uncertainty, and uncertainty reduces business investment, which can ripple through loan demand, risk assessment, and sector exposure. Now let's bring it closer to home with behavioral economics. Traditional economics assumes that people are rational. They weigh options and make optimal choices. But in reality, it's more complicated than that. Behavioral economics recognizes that people are influenced by habits, biases, and emotional shortcuts. But in practice, human behavior often deviates from this model. Let's consider why people often choose unhealthy food even when they know it's not good for them. The present bias. We heavily discount the future in favor of immediate gratification. Fast food offers immediate pleasure while the health cost is delayed. Choice overload. Too many options can cause decision fatigue, leading people to default habits. Status quo bias. People resist change, especially when change requires effort or planning. Finally, framing. The way choices are presented influences decisions. For example, 90% fat-free sounds healthier than 10% fat. These behavioral insights apply to finance as well. Clients may avoid switching to better financial products, undersave for retirement, or delay loan repayments due to cognitive biases. At Valiant, we can improve client outcomes by using nudges like reminders and progress tracking to encourage timely repayments. Structuring defaults that benefit customers such as automatic savings or pre-selected insurance. Simplifying decisions environments so customers make more confident, beneficial choices. Behavioral economics overall allows us to build empathy into our services, making finance more accessible and aligned with how people actually behave. Artificial intelligence is reshaping the nature of work. Let's explore this by dividing the labour force into skilled and unskilled workers. For unskilled workers, AI and automation often displace routine tasks. As machines become more capable, demand for unskilled labour decreases. This is shown as a leftward shift in the demand curve, D1 to D2 in the unskilled labour market. The result? Lower wages and fewer jobs for these workers. This increases structural unemployment, especially among individuals whose roles are not easily adaptable. Conversely, skilled labour is in greater demand. AI enhances the productivity of specialists like engineers, analysts, and developers. Firms require individuals to build, maintain, and interpret AI systems. This drives a rightward shift in the demand curve D1 to D2 for skilled workers. The assumptions here are that labour markets are segmented and skills are not easily transferable. Without reskilling, displaced workers face long-term disadvantages. Wage inequality is likely to widen. As high-skill wages rise and low-skill wages fall, the gap grows. This is compounded by access to training and digital infrastructure, which are uneven across regions. For Valiant, this trend has practical implications. Credit assessments must reflect income volatility and employment precarity. Our risk modelling should account for shifting wage dynamics. We can partner with educational providers and offer loans for reskilling to support clients in transition. By understanding these dynamics, we stay ahead of the labour market trends and continue serving our diverse customer base effectively. To wrap up, the business cycle gives us early warning signs. Trade policy influences our external environment. Behavioral economics reminds us our clients are human, and AI will redefine the rules of work and fairness. Thank you for your attention. I look forward to the strategic discussions ahead.